Okay, I am a biology professor at Pacific Union College, a Seventh-day Adventist college or university in California. We have a four-year degree program here. We teach a number of different majors, including the biology major. I am a wildlife biologist. Birds are my specialty, but I like everything that moves. And I like plants as well. And I like spending time outdoors. I do a lot of rock climbing and mountaineering, and I feel close to God. I feel like I'm in church anytime I'm outdoors. It's a wonderful planet we live on, and I enjoy exploring it. So I am not a malacologist, which is a person that studies shells, but I like marine biology, and I do a lot of snorkeling and scuba diving, and I've gotten to travel in a lot of different places. Most of the photos will be mine. I did live in Trinidad and Tobago for 9 years, in the Caribbean and the Virgin Islands for a year. So if any of you are from the West Indies, I may have been to your island. Beautiful place.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. A British Union membership, I would say, is majority probably from West Indies, and also we have a significantly large membership from Africa. So it's great to have somebody who was part, well, of certainly of some of the islands which our members come from.
Okay, shall I go ahead and begin?
Yes, Professor, you can start. Thank you, thank you.
Okay, for the shell's honor, these happen to be some tiger cowries on a little island of Micronesia where I spent a year as a student missionary. I returned many years later. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. Incidentally, every lecture that I give at the college, I always begin with a Bible verse that I find to be appropriate about this subject. And this is a very appropriate text for this subject. What is the meaning of the term mollusk? And I'd like somebody to answer that, one of the Pathfinders.
All right, well, this is not going to be maybe easy answer, but certainly let's have a go, guys. What does it mean? What is the meaning of the term mollusk? Let's find out. We are having two audiences. One is on the Facebook, one is here with us in the Zoom. So we are hoping that there is some secret Pathfinder biologist which will give us the answer. Somebody's asking, is that a type of snail? Okay, all right. No further answers, Professor. Maybe you will need to give us the answer.
To begin with, there are two different variations of spelling. Apparently, here in America, where I live, people spell it with a K at the end, mollusk with a K. The British apparently spell it with a C at the end. I actually prefer that because the word is derived from the Latin word molluscus, meaning soft, flexible, tender. It's referring to the soft body parts of all the different species of shells. Shells are actually in a phylum called Mollusca, and it's spelled with a C, not a K. That's why I prefer this C. So that's what mollusk means. Soft, flexible, tender.
Excellent.
And it refers to all the different shells.
Excellent. And we prefer that you prefer English, sorry.
Yeah. Well, you know, I prefer that too, actually. Okay, do all shells have a shell?
Wow, another question, guys, for Professor Floyd. Do you think, guys, that every shell has a shell? It's now this is now coming to the point where some people are regretting for skipping a biology class. Some people are saying yes, some people are saying no. Professor, you tell us the answer.
The answer is no. There are some that lack a shell. And I'm going to show you a few photos. This is a cute little animal called a spotted sea hare. Okay, there are sea hares and sea slugs and things called nudibranchs that lack a shell. And you may have these in England there, banana slug, some kind of a slug. This is a banana slug from California. No shell, but that's a mollusk. What is the mantle of a shell?
All right, it's another question. This is one of the honors that does require a little bit of pre-knowledge for sure, but if you don't have it, don't worry, you'll be able to learn it here. At the same time, you can always go back and watch this video, so don't get stressed too much, guys. Do you know what is the mantle? No, Professor, no answers coming on this question.
The mantle is an organ that covers the soft parts, and it secretes calcium carbonate to create the shell. And here's a photo of it here. The shell is actually white. So the mantle is covering the shell. And when the animal gets scared, the mantle goes back inside the shell. So the shell is completely white, but the mantle helps create the shell. This is called a flamingo tongue, beautiful animal that lives in the Caribbean. This one is from Honduras, and he's feeding on a sea rod, which is a type of coral. Okay, what is the foot? Did you know that a shell has a foot?
Oh, that's I think that's a surprise of today. Did you know that, guys? So what is the foot? Is the question for everybody there? Let's see. People are saying that they love your presentation, but the answers are not coming through of what is the foot. So, Professor, tell us, what is the foot?
It's the foot. The foot is the foot, right?
I knew it. I knew it. I just did not want to show off.
It's the soft part protruding from the shell, if they have a shell, and it's used for crawling. So basically, they're crawling on their foot. And this would be an example of the foot. This is a giant African snail, which is introduced in Micronesia. And you can see his head is in the front and he's crawling on his foot. That's a different looking foot than what you have. They don't have toes.
Yeah.
Okay, what is the radula?
Wow, I'm a foreigner. I haven't heard this term, and I'm sure I should have in my biology class. But what is the radula, guys? Any answers there? People are still shocked that the snail has a foot. That's the only answer that I have here. So, okay. If somebody says it helps to move, is that correct?
Not quite. I'm going to give a hint.
Oh,
It's
Professor, yeah.
It's the tongue, and it has very jagged teeth-like structures that are used for feeding. And this is what the tongue looks like. That round circular part in the center there. And it comes in different shapes and sizes. And it can actually be quite dangerous. There are cones, a group of shells that have a radula, which injects a highly toxic venom in fish. And I believe there's 3 or 4 species, maybe 5, that have actually killed human beings. Okay. And they're the ones that like to eat fish. So this is called a geography cone. It is the most dangerous. So you don't really want to just pick up any shell that you find that's alive out in the ocean, because if you pick up one of these, you could die. These live out in the Indo-Pacific islands, Indian Pacific Oceans. What are the ribs of a shell?
Yeah, another question. What are the ribs? I'm sure the answer will be, well, they're the ribs, but maybe not. Well, Pathfinders, what do you think? What are the ribs on a shell? Okay. We're still waiting. Oh, somebody says, well, somebody says they're the ribs, raised ridges, the surface of the shell. Professor, what is the right answer?
That's it. That's the answer. Very good. Ridges on a shell. So here you can see some ribs. I don't know why they use the word ribs, but yeah, the ridges on the shell there. That's a pretty shell. It's a type of snail of some kind in Fiji. I don't know what kind it is. What is a valve?
Okay, let's go. Somebody is in shock about some of the answers. Let me just see. So, what is the valve? Maybe somebody would know that. I can see, Professor, some people started Googling because they obviously disappeared. But yeah, no answer at the moment. So, what would be the valve?
The valve is half the shell of a bivalve mollusk, which has a two-part shell. Okay, so like a clam has two different parts, and each one of those they call the valve. And here's a photo. There's an upper valve there and the lower valve. Okay, a bivalve, it's a clam.
Thank you, thank you.
What is the dorsal border?
Wow, maybe, well, as our Pathfinder is typing, maybe, you know, if you give us, somebody says it's the back.
Pretty much, yeah, that's pretty much it. The dorsal is the upper part and the ventral is the lower part. So the dorsal border would be the edge of a bivalve shell, which is the top part where the hinge is located. So the hinge is at the very top there. See the brown part there? That would be that would be it right there.
All righty.
What is the apex?
Apex. I feel like I'm sitting in the biology test at the moment, failing big time. Tip. Oh, okay. Somebody says tip point of the shell.
Very good, very good. The tip or the point of the shell. And it would be the right side there. The very little tip on the right would be the apex. All right. What is the operculum?
Is the word which I never pronounced in my life. Operculum. Pathfinder. Okay, I'm getting the messages that the Pathfinders are awakening and they're slowly typing in, and that's very good, but I still do not know what this is. So somebody says the end of the foot, I think.
That's a fairly good explanation. It's basically the door. It's a hard structure on the foot used to seal off the entry to a shell. It's basically the door. They close the door so nobody can pull the body out. Hopefully, they try to protect themselves. So inside that queen conch, you can see the little brown thing right here. Can you see my mouse?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay, that is the operculum. So the body is inside of it, and it's at the end of the foot, just as the smart Pathfinder had said. Oh, this is a queen conch. Queen conchs are very common in the West Indies, in the Caribbean Sea. Beautiful creatures. What are siphons?
Siphons. I'm sure somebody would know that. So, Pathfinders, what are the siphons? If you're able, please do type in your comment section on Facebook or Zoom. Professor, no answers coming on this one. So, what is the siphons? What are siphons?
Well, they're little soft tubes that extend from the mantle, and they bring water into and out of the shell for filtering. So water passes through the body from one part to from the outside to the inside, and then from the inside to the outside. So here you can see right there, the little siphons there. There's two of them. There's one for the intake of water and one there's an in-current siphon and an out-current siphon.
Professor, would you be able to point with your mouse?
Oh, yeah. Right here and here.
Uh-huh.
I think that's the in-current, and I think this is the ex-current siphon. Okay, so water has to travel through the body. That's where they get their food, at least this kind of a mollusk. Okay, where are shells found?
All right, that should be a little bit easier, maybe. Where are the shells found, if it's possible? Give us your answers once again in comments. People are saying on the beach, sea, oceans. People are mentioning lakes as well. Also, somebody said land. I never saw. Maybe I don't know. Rivers, underwater, and a few other places. That's all coming from Zoom, as Facebook is just about 8-9 seconds behind us. So let's see, maybe something else comes from the behind the rocks. Yeah, that's it. That's what we have.
Well, those are all very good answers. They're mostly in the ocean, but there are some that are attached to rocks and some in fresh water. There are some in land, so they occur in a lot of different environments. These are some mussels that are in fresh water in a river in South America, in Paraguay. So they're in fresh water and salt water, and this is one that's crawling on land, a banana slug here in California. So yeah, there are a lot of different environments, but they're mostly in the ocean. Well, what areas have the most species of shells?
All right, anybody has answer on that? What areas have the most species of shells? Oh, somebody did not like that snail. Okay, let's have a look. Caribbean, somebody said.
That's a good guess. So I give the answer?
Yes, please.
Tropical coast. The Caribbean has a lot. The Pacific and Indian Oceans would have the most species because they're larger than the Caribbean area. And there's a lot of different islands there for them to become new species. How do shells move? And they're most common along the coast, right along the shoreline. That's where you see them. You don't see them so much in the deep oceans. There are some. You don't see them out swimming in the middle of the ocean. There's actually a few species that do. Think about an octopus or a squid. You don't see many on land. You don't see many in freshwater. They're tropical coasts along the ocean. The tropics have more species than cold water areas like in North America and in Great Britain. Okay, how do shells move from one place to another?
Yeah, how the shells move from one place to another. That would be interesting to find out. I don't know that myself. A lot of answers came through. They said they push. They use the current of the seawater, tides, Uber. Somebody says that this is a little bit hard for me. They're a little bit squeamish. So, Professor, how did they move?
Most of them crawl on their foot, but there's actually some that use jet propulsion by squirting water through a siphon. And some of them simply travel with ocean currents. We're going to look at a video, if I can get this to work. Okay, let's see if we can get that video to work here. Here's a video of jet propulsion by an octopus. You know how a jet flies? A jet flies when the jet engine has the air that comes in through a large area and it goes out through a small area. And there's a lot of force that occurs behind it, giving it propulsion. So here we're going to see an octopus. A squid does the same thing.
California two-spot octopus are cephalopods that utilize jet propulsion to move. They take water into their mantle, passing their gills, and push it through the siphon, a tube-like structure that forces the water to go through a narrow opening, allowing them to move faster through water.
Pretty interesting, huh?
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting.
I can't get my next slide to go.
Just if you go on that arrow. Oh.
Okay, here we go. That was, I had to hit the escape and to get back to it. Okay, how do shells protect themselves?
Okay. So how do shells protect themselves? All right. Okay. So it is answers a shell. They use shell to protect themselves. They hide behind in the inner part of the shell. They move away. They use camouflage. That's what we have at the moment, Professor.
Those are all very good responses. hiding is the main way. Most of them have a shell that protects them from predators. There are some that eject a cloud of ink. Can you think of an animal that does that?
Yeah, we can. We can. I just want to remind Pathfinders, as Professor is teaching this, that you can actually fill your worksheet with these answers because they are there. So if you have a worksheet, you are getting a lot of answers that will help you complete this honor and then get you excellent knowledge. People are mentioning octopus using the black ink.
Very good, an octopus. Some of them have a deadly sting. I just mentioned the geography cone. And then some mimic other animals. So I'm going to show a video of the octopus ejecting ink. There's two scuba divers here, and they have a small octopus with them, and there's a lot of ink that comes out. He has the octopus in his hands. Now his friend has the octopus. Kind of hard to see where the octopus is at. He's hiding in the ink.
It's correct. I can't see an octopus at all.
Okay, let me see if I can get my next one to go. And here's a video of mimicry by an octopus.
Yeah, I watched this video very recently. What a fascinating octopus.
There's a number of different videos, and they're very good at mimicking not just other animals, but they could mimic the coral reef itself. They could change their colors. They're very clever creatures.
This
Watch.
is the mimic octopus.
See, he disappears.
A master of disguise. In its natural state, the mimic octopus is a light beige color, and like most octopi, can change its skin pigment to blend in with its surroundings. But the mimic octopus takes things to another level altogether. Found in Indonesia and in the Great Barrier Reef, it's an octopus that is so intelligent that when it feels threatened, it can fool possible predators into thinking that it is in fact another, more deadly species. It does this by changing its color, shape, and perhaps most interestingly, the way it moves and behaves. It's reputed to be able to impersonate 15 other kinds of sea creature, the most notable being the poisonous flatfish, deadly sea snakes, and the highly venomous lionfish. It's thought that even though these impersonations aren't flawless, they can give the crafty octopus enough time to escape before the predator realizes it's been duped. The mimic octopus was discovered relatively recently in 1998, possibly because up until then, it had done such a good job of disguising itself.
Pretty cool, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was shocking that the Japanese fishermen did not know for so long, is that a fish or snake or whatever it is. So it's an amazing story.
Well, it's amazing how God created these animals so they could defend themselves and they could adapt to the environments that they live in and survive.
Yeah.
Okay, how are shells made and from what materials are they made?
Okay, so question is, you have a question on the screen as I read another question we just came in. Claudette asked if different octopi release different color ink or are they all black?
That's a good question. I'm not sure what the answer for it is, but I know that in the deep oceans, there are some octopuses that will actually release a bioluminescent ink. That's a light. So the color, I assume the color is probably always dark. I don't know if there's green, purple, yellow, red ink, but just a bright light would be interesting.
Professor, as you were giving that answer, the answer started coming in that the shells are made of calcium.
Calcium, that's half of it.
And then somebody mentioned carbonate.
That's the other half. Very good. So the mantle secretes calcium carbonate, which hardens into a shell. The apex forms first with new growth at the opening. So this is interesting. Calcium carbonate requires a certain pH in the ocean. The ocean's actually becoming a little bit more acidic because the ocean's been warming during the last century. And some shells in some parts of the world are actually dissolving. It's a little bit worrisome because these animals need to have a home to live inside. And they're starting to dissolve in a few places where the ocean's acidity is particularly low. So scientists are concerned that if the ocean becomes too acidic, that all of these animals are going to dissolve and die. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's just a concern that, that people have. Okay, give 5 uses for shells by humans.
5 uses for shells for humans. Oh, okay, guys. Any suggestions? We still have questions on octopi, but guys, let's focus on shells at the moment, if that's right. Somebody was asking different questions. Are any octopi venomous or not? Okay, some people.
Oh, that's a good question. I want to answer that one.
Yeah.
There's if you go to Australia, there's 4 species of octopus there that have a blue ring around them, a little blue ring, and they are venomous and they have killed human beings. I think there's only been a few fatalities though, and they're little small. They're little small guys. I believe all octopuses are venomous, but they won't kill you. They have a little beak that they could bite you with.
Okay. The questions that we have on the screen, getting answers. People are saying people can use shells for the decorations. Some are saying for bracelets, musical instruments. What else, Professor?
Well, here's a list. In some islands of the Pacific, they use them as money. There's a little one called a money cowrie. They've been used as buttons on clothing, jewelry, of course. How about a comb? How does that one look like a comb? You comb your hair with it. Even kitchen utensils. So they can be used for a lot of different things. People like shells.
Excellent.
Okay, name and describe 5 classes of shells. I should probably go straight through that rather than ask it as a question. So the first group is called gastropods. The word gastro means stomach, and the word pod means foot. So this means stomach foot. They're basically walking on their stomach. So these are univalve. They have only one valve. They're snail-like, and the shell is often spiral. So that is a queen conch. Again, in the Caribbean, a lot of people eat those. Are they good for Christians to eat?
It's a good question, guys. Let's hear. Pathfinders, are the shells good for Christians, Seventh-day Adventists to eat? People are saying no. That was like straight away 700 no's. So yeah, what do you say, Professor?
Yeah, no, they're not clean. They're not considered clean. They're eating muck in the bottom of the ocean, and they're eating stuff that we don't really want inside our bodies. Okay, so this is what the anatomy of a gastropod looks like. You can see, I'll use my pointer, it's crawling on its foot. And here's its mouth. And it's eating muck from the bottom. It could be eating plants. I mean, it could be eating algae. It may even be eating the dirt at the bottom and getting some nutrients out of it. Here's the mantle cavity. You can see the gills here. The gills are used for breathing. Here's its anus. That's where it has to poop. Right above its head. That looks kind of scary. Here are the intestines. The stomach is over in here, and it reproduces with these. The shell is around the outside here. And here's your operculum. Remember the operculum? That's the door right here on the end of its foot. Okay, the next group is bivalves. these have two valves and they look like clams. So this is a giant clam in Micronesia. And you can see that it's got two different valves. There's one above and one below. And he's down in the sediment there. And you can see his body. It's a pretty animal. That's a living one. So they're kind of like clams. Any clam is a bivalve, and this is what their anatomy looks like. So they have two muscles, and these muscles are what open and close the shell. And if you want to, what people do if they want to eat them, they take a knife and they stick it in there and they cut through those muscles, one on each end. And you can see that there is a in-current siphon comes in through here. You don't really see the siphons. Yeah, here it is right here. The in-current siphon is here. Whoops. And the out-current is up here. So it looks like the water comes in this way and goes out that way. So, so here are the gills. And here's the dorsal part where the hinge is located. There's a heart. Doesn't look like a heart, huh? And this is the foot which it walks on. And here's the mantle right along the edge of the shell, the inside edge. And the mantle can extend on the outside. Remember, we've seen that. Okay, here's another illustration. Here you can see the in-current siphon where the water comes in. Whoops. And the ex-current siphon right here where the water goes out. The gills, heart, stomach, mouth is way up here. The foot. Okay. Then there's a third group called the chitons. This is a lined chiton here in California. They have 8 overlapping plates, and you could count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So chitons have 8 plates. They look very different than other shells. The mantle is right along the edge here. The mantle can actually cover those plates. And these guys attach to rocks. So they crawl along rocks. And this guy, you can see he's eating algae. They feed on the algae. The algae is the little green stuff and the red stuff. There's different types of algae. Algae look like plants, but they're not real plants. The fourth group is tusk shells. I've never seen a tusk shell. I'm not sure where to look for them, but they look like a tusk of an elephant, perhaps, and they live in the sand. That's probably why I've never seen one. You have to go digging through the sand to find them. So they're kind of hard to find. And then the fifth group is cephalopods. The word cephalo means head, and the word pod means foot. So this means a head foot, whatever. And there's 3 different groups there. The octopus, like the one on the right here. Then you got the squid down here in the lower left, and then you have a nautilus at lower right here. Whoops. What is the source of pearls?
It's a very good question. We had the young people who already asked the question, does that clam have a pearl? So, Professor, what do you say?
The source of pearls. It comes in bivalve. I think all clams will have them, some of them more so than others. There's something that irritates them. It could be like a piece of sand that gets inside the shell of a bivalve while it's feeding. So it secretes what they call mother of pearl, calcium carbonate and conchiolin. It's a chemical around the irritant, and that's what creates the pearl. So the pearls are normally very small. They actually inject. See, I don't think you have anything. Yeah, I don't have anything on it. They can actually inject a pearl farmers. What they do is they inject something inside the shell that makes it secrete this the mother of pearl to make a bigger pearl. So they could actually try to induce the growth of pearls in mollusks by injecting these irritants. Okay, what can a pearl teach us about Jesus?
Any answers on that, young people? Pathfinders, Please keep the comments coming down in the comment section as Professor teach. So Professor, okay, somebody's saying to be pure and hard, to grow, to be strong like that maybe. Which lesson, Professor, did you choose for us today?
It is free. You don't have, I mean, you could buy a pearl in the store, but you could get one for free in the ocean. It is valuable. People are willing to pay a lot of money for them. And its beauty hides the ugly. And there's a lot of other ones. All the other ones that the Pathfinders came up with are good lessons that can be taught by pearls. Okay, we're going to name 7 Bible texts that refer directly or indirectly to shells, and I'll just go through these one at a time. I believe you're supposed to match some Bible texts for the honor. And God said, let the water teem with living creatures like shells, and let birds fly above the earth across the vault of the sky. So God created the great creatures of the sea and every living thing with which the water teems and that moves about in it according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. To me, this text is telling us that God is the creator of all of this diversity that we see. It's marvelous. It's there for our enjoyment. We could enjoy it. But you know, some people think that God created all these things only for the benefit of man. But at the end, God saw that it was good. So these creatures are good in and of themselves, apart from being important to us. And I think God likes to share the joy of life with all his different creatures. Secondly, there is the sea, vast and spacious, teeming with creatures beyond number, living things both large and small. I know it's probably cold there on the beaches, and you guys may not spend a lot of time swimming in the water. If you ever go on vacation to a warmer part of the world, like in the Caribbean, and if you have a mask and snorkel, you could go snorkeling, and there's so much beautiful life to see. I highly recommend going there and looking at it all. It's spectacular. It's like a whole nother planet down under the sea. There's a song about that. Third text, do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under your feet and turn and tear you to pieces. So things that are important, we need to take care of. Treat them with respect and not just throw them away. Fourth verse, again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. And we Christians interpret that as the kingdom of heaven as being, and Jesus being the pearl of great price. It's so important that we're willing to give everything we have to obtain it. I mean, which would you rather have, Jesus or silver or gold? There's a beautiful song, I'd rather have Jesus than silver or gold or a pearl. I think this is the fifth one. I also want the women to dress modestly with decency and propriety, adorning themselves not with elaborate hairstyles or gold or pearls or expensive clothes. So I think more important than the clothing we wear is our character. Okay, it's more important to have integrity, to be honest and truthful in all aspects of our lives, to be decent, to be good human beings than to have fancy gold or pearls, expensive clothes, that sort of thing. Important lesson for us from the Bible. I think this is the sixth. Of all the creatures living in the water of the seas and the streams, you may eat any that have fins and scales. Do shells have fins and scales? No. But all creatures in the seas or streams that do not have fins and scales, whether among all the swarming things or among all the other living creatures in the water, you are to regard as unclean. And our final verse, The 12 gates were 12 pearls, each gate made of a single pearl. Those must be big, huge pearls. The great street of the city was of gold, as pure as transparent glass. Okay, so the honor asks you to make a collection of 20 shells and to identify the class of each shell and describe where it lives. This is difficult to do because if you go to the beach, you're going to have a hard time finding these shells. It can potentially be dangerous actually collecting those shells because there are waves, and if you don't know how to swim, you could get swept out to sea. You can fall off a rock and get hurt. It also may be illegal to collect these animals. And if you do collect them, unless you collect ones that are already dead, you may have to kill them. And I don't encourage people to kill animals. They're God's creatures. Just let them live. I think we enjoy them more when they're alive than when they're dead. So instead of collecting shells, you could potentially buy shells. That costs a lot of money, and that takes time to do. And it encourages people to go out and collect shells when we should really be leaving them alone and let them live their lives out there in nature. So what I recommend that you do is that you go online and search for photographs of shells and make a collection of 20 shells. Now, when you find a shell online, you should be able to find what its English name is, its scientific name. And if you type in the scientific name into a Google search, you should be able to find the Wikipedia account of it. And if you look at the Wikipedia account on the right side, it should give the classification, which you can find the class that it belongs to. Remember, there are 5 different classes. There's gastropoda, bivalvia, sometimes it's called pelecypoda. There's the chitons are in polyplecophora. The tusk shells are scaphopoda. And then the octopuses and squids and nautiluses are in cephalopoda. So one of those 5 classes. So does that sound like something that could be fun to do? You're going to learn a lot about shells if you do that.
Yeah, why not? That would be great. Yeah.
Okay, so I believe you guys have a worksheet that you can fill out to complete the honor.
That's
and
correct.
work on your collection of shells. And once you do that, you should be able to earn the shells honor.
Yeah. And thank you so much, Professor Floyd, for this.